The Marvel movies started releasing at the perfect time in my life. One of the first movies that I had ever seen in theaters was the first Thor movie, and I liked it so much that I made my dad take me to the Target next to the movie theater to buy this Thor hammer that I still have to this very day. For Christmas of 2013, I got this little Iron Man blaster toy along with an Iron Man and Captain America mask. And in 2014, me and my mother made this shield for a Captain America costume that I made. Clearly, I was very into the Marvel Universe. And then Ant-Man happened. In between Phase 2 and Phase 3, I was getting impatient. I wanted more cool superhero shit. Until one day, when browsing upon Netflix, I stumbled upon what would become my favorite TV show, The Flash. I fucking loved this show. It was the perfect solution for an 11-year-old who had way too much time on his hands. Because of this, I was exposed to the Arrowverse, a series of TV shows that comprised of Arrow, Flash, Supergirl, and Legends of Tomorrow. And let me tell you that I love these shows, but they're fucking awful. But it didn't really matter how bad they were because they were trying to do something completely different from Marvel. At the time that Arrow began airing, there was absolutely no Marvel shows that were airing anywhere. And then in 2013, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. released, which was somehow even worse.
That was Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
It sucked.
So this spawned the consensus that Marvel had better movies, but DC had better TV shows, which was true for at least a little bit. About that, by the time 2015 rolled around, Marvel was absolutely dominating DC in every regard. I mean, on a real note, Daredevil is probably one of the best, not only superhero TV shows, but one of the best TV shows I've ever watched in general. And I don't even fucking like Daredevil. Like, before I watched this show, I probably didn't even know who the fuck he was. So the question that I answer today is, why did DC fall off so hard? What is Marvel doing that DC isn't? What is Marvel doing right that DC is doing wrong? Oh hey, that's the title of the video. Remember when Thor was an arrogant asshole, but then Ragnarok comes around and he's a humbled man that actually has the strength to back up his occasional arrogance? This is a satisfying character arc. Compare this to someone like Oliver Queen in Arrow. He starts the show as an annoying rich kid that has been handed almost everything throughout most of his life, until he and his father get lost at sea and Oliver is left by himself on an island. All of his character development happens not in the main story, but from flashbacks that are sprinkled throughout the show. The reason this doesn't work is because we already know where Oliver ends up as a person, because we are literally watching him be that way. So if we know where Oliver began and we know where Oliver is now, none of that between shit really matters. They waste so much time in this show on the fucking flashbacks that do nothing but give explanation for some of the random characters that show up. And don't let the flashbacks fool you, there is absolutely no character arc. Present Oliver goes from a no-bullshit Chad to a no-bullshit Chad that sacrifices himself for the universe. Overall, Oliver learns nothing and he gains nothing besides a team that he doesn't really need. Oh yeah, that's another thing. Side characters only serve the purpose to add more melodrama to the show. Like on The Flash. Does the fastest fuckface alive really need a team to tell him what to do? No! He can literally think faster than any single one of these people, but they dumb him down so much in terms of intelligence and physical power that it makes it seem like he needs a team. But I get it, you can't really make a show about one guy going around being a superhero. Oh wait! The show balances the development of Daredevil and his friends so incredibly well that they are all equally fleshed out by the end of the show. And there's even so few side characters that there is a lot of time to focus on them. You could count the side characters in Daredevil on one fucking hand. It's easier to follow, it doesn't feel forced, and overall just provides a better watching experience. When you fucking flood your show with a bunch of characters that don't actually matter, it just bogs down the show and sidelines your main character. So I decided to do some quick math the other day, and I found out that the Arrowverse has a combined length of 340.6 hours, or 14 days, 4 hours, and 2 minutes. For those of you that don't know, that's about as long as the fucking Simpsons, which by the way has been running for almost 32 years. Yeah, needless to say, it's not a very short watch, compared to the MCU, which is just about 50 hours, which does not include the TV shows. So I don't really know how DC manages to make a less expansive universe in like fucking 4 times the amount of time. But then in fucking Crisis, they try and expand it to all the other DC properties, which doesn't work out either. You can't just reference a bunch of shows and movies that are like leagues better than you and be like, hey guys, we're in the same universe now. It has no other purpose than to be an Easter egg. With the amount of time and money put into these fucking TV shows, there could have been a bunch of different good movies by now. But no, we get the fucking DCEU with some of the worst movies I've ever seen. This movie is fucking terrible. It follows the superhero formula to a fucking T, yet still messes it up somehow. Ryan Reynolds is the only redeeming thing about this movie, and I fucking hate Ryan Reynolds. He's probably one of my least favorite actors. The fact that I note him as a good thing about this movie really goes to show how fucking garbage it is. We open up to a young Hal Jordan watching his dad fucking die in some stupid fucking airplane accident, I guess. Which, by the way, they will make sure that you do not forget by referencing his father at every point that they can.
Al. Keep it warm for me.
He's the son of the late Martin Jordan, who was killed in his own ill-fated test flight back in 1993.
Cool! It's an X-1, right?
Starfighter. My dad gave me that.
Are you scared?
It's my job not to be.
But you're not scared, are you, Dad?
Let's just say it's my job not to be. I'm good. Totally good.
They waste so much time at the beginning of the movie that they have to just randomly teleport him to some place so he can become the Green Lantern, and then his friend gets infected with some kind of fucking thing. Like, it doesn't really explain what it is, he just kind of gets infected. He becomes a bad guy with a fucking gigantic brain, until he gets brutally murdered by the actual main villain, and then Green Lantern conjures some shit and beats the guy, because of course he does, the plot needs him to. And then the movie is just kind of over. I think the funniest part is that they hint towards a sequel at the end, and that didn't happen. And you know, for how much budget this movie has, everything looks like dog shit. Green Lantern's 100% CGI for like almost all of his action scenes, and when it's not an action scene, they just CGI his mask and costume onto him, which looks fucking awful.
Damn, boy, he's sick, boy!
The main villain is CGI, the supporting characters that aren't humans are CGI, along with the entire fucking planet they live on, and absolutely none of it looks anywhere close to good. Now listen, I'm not a fucking practical effects fanboy. I'm not gonna sit here and shit on CGI and say that it belongs in no movie ever, but it has to be done right for it to justify itself. It also really kills me that DC has the balls to put Green Lantern in their, like, intro for their movies or whatever, when he's not even really canon in the rest of the DCEU movies. It's just kind of like a huge fucking slap in the face. Overall, 3 out of 10, moving on. Man of Steel introduces the most boring rendition of Superman that exists in media. How do you even take a character that is well known for being a goody two-shoes and turn him into a fucking emotionless villain? Basically, this movie is just a kaiju battle. We follow Clark Kent becoming Superman and then fighting the main villain, and then that's the movie. It's lifeless, dull, and shows no other purpose than being a mindless action film. It's also really weird to me how people regard Superman as a fucking hero after he completely demolishes the city in this fight. Like, huge buildings falling down, thousands of lives lost, types of destruction, and people are just like, oh yep, he's my hero. I really love Superman. I really don't have much more to say about this movie, so 5 out of 10, moving on. Oh boy, can't wait to talk about Batman vs. fucking Superman. My favorite superhero movie. Listen, out of everything I've called awful in this video, please let this be the one thing that you take seriously, because this movie is fucking awful. Here's where we're introduced to Ben Affleck as Batman, and you know what, I would go as far as to say I actually like Ben Affleck as Batman. If I completely disregard everything I know about the character and just think about him as a character in this movie, then yeah, I like him. But that is the only time you will hear me say that about this fucking movie, because everything else is terrible. We have an emotionless Batman versus an emotionless Superman who is being pitted against each other because of fucking Lex Luthor, who, by the way, is being played by Jesse Eisenberg, who I genuinely like. I don't think he fits this role, but he's not giving a bad acting performance, and it really does show that he at least gave some kind of effort, so props to you for working with what you were given. I cannot say the same for almost any other actor in the fucking movie, because they're all boring, one-note, lifeless-ass characters. This movie also introduces us to Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, and I'm gonna talk about this more in her section, but she is an awful actress in all of these movies. Also, the main villain of this movie is Doomsday. When you are 2 movies into your fucking DC universe and you're already using Doomsday as a main villain, how, like, what the fuck? It's literally like if the villain in Iron Man 2 was Thanos. Like, it makes no sense. Also, it makes absolutely zero sense how Lex even fucking knew how to create Doomsday. He's literally a human with no prior knowledge that Krypton even fucking exists, where Zod's body is, but I guess he finds out somehow. And I think the #1 most annoying thing in this movie is the actual fight between Batman and Superman. This raises so many fucking questions. What is this, and why did it hurt Superman? How did Batman even know that it was going to hurt Superman? Why doesn't Batman fucking die from this? Why would Batman even fucking try bullets? How doesn't Batman die from this? Or this? Why can't Superman see through this? He has fucking X-ray vision. Where does Batman get kryptonite? Look at this little ass kick, dude. There's no way that sends Superman fucking flying. Overall, this suit is just fucking ridiculous and just way too clunky. And for a man that said this earlier,
breathe it in. That's fear.
it sure is quite funny to see him cower in fear when he realizes Superman has gotten his powers back. Overall, the entire scene plays out like it was written by someone that just wanted Batman to win, and so that's basically what happens. They both get over their issues with each other and then fight the main villain. End of the story, happy days, whatever. Fucking 2 out of 10. Moving on. No. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't seen Wonder Woman in a really long time, but when I did see it, I remember enjoying it. For a while, a lot of people were saying that it was the only good DCEU movie, which I do agree with, but I haven't seen it in so long, and I really don't feel like rewatching it for this video, so I'm just gonna leave this here. From what I remember, it was around a 7 out of 10. This was around the time where DC took a really good look at what Marvel was doing and said, hey, why don't we do that? And the movie that came out of that was 2017's Justice League. Now, just for a quick second, I'd really like to compare this to the first Avengers movie. Before the 2012 Avengers released, we had 2 Iron Man movies, 1 Thor movie, and 1 Captain America movie. We also had a Hulk movie, but we don't really talk about that one. But the point that I'm trying to make is almost all of the characters in the Avengers had at least a standalone movie or was introduced in one of these movies at some point. What movies do we get leading up to Justice League? 1 Superman movie, 1 movie that introduced Batman, which isn't even standalone, and then a Wonder Woman movie. And here comes fucking Justice League out of nowhere. Hey guys, here's this team, have these characters you don't even fucking know. This movie has Ben Affleck as Batman, again, of course. Henry Cavill as Superman, again, of course. Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, yeah. But where this movie really falls off is with Ezra Miller as Flash. He's really trying to be a Marvel character. He tries to quip like one, but it really just does not come out well.
Silica-based quartz sand fabric, abrasion resistant, heat resistant.
Yeah, I do competitive ice dancing.
It's what they use on the space shuttle to prevent it from burning up on re-entry.
I do very competitive ice dancing.
Can you shut the fuck up?
This movie also introduces Jason Momoa as Aquaman and Ray Fisher as Cyborg, and I don't like either of these characters, mostly because from their introduction to the end of the movie, they really don't do anything. Speaking of the end of the movie, it fucking sucks. Everyone in the league tries to fight Steppenwolf. What the fuck? You can't want me to take a villain seriously and give him a fucking name like Steppenwolf. What the fuck is a Steppenwolf? Anyways, the final battle has the Justice League trying to take on Steppenwolf by themselves, and then Superman comes in, wrecks ass, and saves the day. That's it. Overall, 5 out of 10, moving on. What's this? A good DCEU movie? I can't talk about Justice League without talking about the Snyder Cut. Just recently, Zack Snyder released his director cut of the movie, and I can't even really call it a director cut because there's entirely new scenes that he filmed for this. And you know what? It turned out good. I left the movie going on one day when I was doing homework because it is, 4 fucking hours! Genuinely the one complaint that I have about it. Like, that's a ridiculous fucking length for a movie. I know Endgame was 3 hours and people were like, oh shit, that's a long movie. Yeah, try fucking 4. Despite the improvements he made to a lot of these scenes, I still feel like there are scenes that could have been cut, or at least cut down. Like, do we really need 2 minutes of Barry caressing this random girl in the street? Honestly, the first, 2 hours is really fucking slow, but when it does pick up, it gets really fucking good. I also like how half of the Justice League isn't, fucking sidelined in this movie. Flash actually has something to do, Cyborg has something to do, and so does Aquaman, and so, it makes for a more team-based film. Superman still shows up at the end and then wrecks shit, but this time in a black suit, and then the movie's just over. Except, no, it's not. They tease a sequel with Martian Manhunter coming in at the end and talking to Bruce Wayne, which, is never gonna happen. And honestly, after this movie releasing, I'm kind of upset that they didn't continue on with this. But hey, at least we get to look forward to some of the future DCEU movies with, Suicide Squad. Oh no. Alright, 2018's Aquaman. This movie actually isn't too bad. We open up with the meeting of Aquaman's parents, Thomas Curry and Atlanta. I don't know if she has a last name, I don't think she does. After Arthur is born, they get attacked by a group of these guys, and Atlanta decides that she needs to leave to protect her family. I don't know why it's a trope to make superheroes orphans. It's really not that interesting of a storyline, so I'm really glad that Arthur and his dad have a good father-son relationship in this. After some stupid fish talking scene, we're introduced to the adult Arthur, who starts wrecking shit. Like, he just straight up kills this guy's dad for no reason. Uh-oh, he made an oopsie because this guy becomes a main villain later. Quote-unquote main villain. He's really not that important. And this movie suffers from the Green Lantern dad syndrome, where they talk about this magical trident, at every point in the movie that they can.
And the trident could only be wielded by the strongest Atlantean.
Crafted from Poseidon's steel for King Atlan, the first ruler of Atlantis. Legend says the trident was imbued with the power to command the sea. In this trident resides the power of Atlantis. In the wrong hands, it would bring destruction. But in the hands of the true heir, it would unite all our kingdoms above and below.
Actually, now that I think about it, there's way too much exposition in this movie in general. Only on the not important stuff. We don't find out why King Orm doesn't like humans, except for the fact that they cause pollution, which is some of the fucking dumbest villain motivation I think I've ever heard. And also sticking with the themes of stupid fucking names, we have
Black Manta
and
Ocean Master.
Come on, it's really not hard to come up with good villain names, even though I'm really not surprised because DC has characters like the Elongated Man, Arm Fall Off Boy, yes, that is an actual name, Calendar Man, Captain Compass, Dog Welder. What the fuck, DC? In comparison, I guess Ocean Master and Steppenwolf aren't as bad as some of those, but holy shit, please, just come up with a good name. Anyways, Arthur and his brother get in a fight, which he ends up losing, and as a result, his mother's trident gets broken in half. So Arthur escapes, and then we're on this fucking fetch quest to get the magical fork or whatever. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention that he absolutely murders the other villain. He gets the trident, he does some shit, and then he finds out that his mother is still alive. And then he beats the absolute shit out of his brother, and that's the movie. I know I didn't do a great job of explaining it, but it's actually pretty good. So, 6 out of 10, moving on. So, Wonder Woman 84 was one of the only movies I had to watch to make this video, and I sure do regret it, because it's really fucking bad. Like, when you're watching this movie, it feels like a fucking parody of a superhero movie. Of course, in every bad superhero movie fashion, we have more than one villain, because why wouldn't we? We have this fucking goofball with a son that's like a completely different race than him. We have this woman who ends up becoming the Cheetah, and by the way, her fight scene is almost entirely CGI, like Green Lantern level CGI, and the one character that has an even slightly decent acting performance fucking dies, so thanks movie, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Wonder Woman finds the monkey's paw, which will grant you any wish that you want at the expense of your most prized possession. She accidentally wishes for her dead boyfriend to come back, who died in the last movie, and as a result she starts losing her powers, which is the most fucking overdone superhero storyline ever. It also makes it even more annoying that before she starts losing her powers, we only get one Wonder Woman scene. Almost the entire rest of the movie is just Gal Gadot being a bad actor. And trust me, it really shows in this fucking movie.
We could go and grab early dinner and talk about exactly how lame that stone is.
Wow, you're so funny.
Diana.
Excuse me, I don't even know you, so please stop following me. Good night.
Speaking of bad actors, the main villain, Maxwell Lord, he's just a fucking goofball. Like, I can't even explain how bad he is at acting.
The rest spread. And your need? What do you wish for? Consider the the FCC, the BBB, the FBD. It's a conspiracy against my success. I'm a forgiving man! You want him back? Just say the word. You can have it all. You just have to want it.
The other villain is like semi-okay until she starts going bad, and then she's very clearly bad at being bad. What the fuck did I just say? And it also has the weirdest villain intention ever. Like, the movie makes it very clear that Maxwell Lord only wants oil, but as soon as he gets his powers to start granting people wishes, he walks around and gives people their wishes. But literally why? Like, what point does he have to do this? It's not gonna get him more oil. Oh wait, I guess it like heals him? Like, in the middle of him doing his villain thing, he literally turns around to give his fucking exposition on what he's doing.
It's all yours for the taking! I wish that I never had. My father respected me. And I take your health.
Actually, now that I think about it, the whole last act of this movie is so fucking odd. Like, as the movie goes on, the stakes just keep on increasing. At first, he makes, like, slightly minor changes, but it evolves to fucking nuclear genocide. But no, guys, Wonder Woman's whip just magically gains some random ability because the plot needs her to, and she can broadcast out to everyone that's making a wish and tell them to stop, because she's just that good at her job. I also really like their use of stock footage here. Gave me a good laugh. It all adds up to make a weird, hard-to-watch movie. So, 3 out of 10, time for the conclusion of my second point. Alright, so real quick, I want to talk about The Flash. Originally, I was going to talk about every single one of the DCTV shows, but I realized that that would make this video way too long. So what I'm going to do is, if this video does well and you guys want me to make another part of this, I will talk about the other DCTV shows. But for right now, I'm only going to talk about Flash and then go into why Marvel is doing better than DC. Okay? Alright, let's get into it. Out of the 4, technically 5 DC TV shows, but I don't want to talk about Black Lightning because that show is too good for these, I personally think The Flash is the best one. I could have pulled a cheap shot here, I could have talked about Supergirl and how shitty that is, but no, I decided to choose what I think is the best. But even with it being the best, I still have a multitude of issues with it that spreads across the other shows as well. Genuinely, the first 2 seasons of this show are like the best thing DC has put out in a long time. These seasons have the best pacing, they have the best villains, they have the best writing, they have the best fight scenes, it's just all so fucking good. Now look, Season 3, I applaud you for trying to do something slightly different from the last 2, but What I can't forgive is you fucking up the best Flash storyline that exists. For those of you that don't know about Flashpoint, there's a fucking entire animated movie about it. Basically, Barry Allen, the main character of The Flash, goes back in time and he saves his mother, who was killed by his arch enemy, the Reverse Flash. And this creates an entirely different alternate timeline with a bunch of different heroes and whatnot. And it's all just a big shit show, basically. But it is easily the most interesting and expansive story about The Flash. And so at the end of Season 2, when I can tell that they're setting this up, I'm like, oh shit! This is about to get so fucking cool! Live action Flashpoint, here we fucking go. It's awful. It sucks. It's terrible. You might be asking, what's so bad about it? It lasts one episode. One episode! And you know what it explores? Fucking, oh, Team Flash doing different things now. No, Wally's the Flash, guys! Isn't this so fucking cool? No one gives a shit about Wally. I want to see the other ones. I want to see the cool heroes. I want to see the different shit about this world. But no! You fucked it up! And so that set real low expectations for Season 3. But hey, you know what? They brought it back. They did some interesting stuff. They got the new villain, Savitar, who ends up being a fucking evil clone of Barry, which really does not make any kind of sense in any kind of way. They try to explain it, but it does not work. Apparently, at the end of Season 2, when Barry creates a time remnant, which is a whole different fucking spiel that I'm not going to get into right now, he creates a different version of himself, I guess. And, yeah, he goes Joker mode.
How about another joke, Murray?
No, I think we've had enough of your jokes.
After they fight and defeat Savitar, Barry has to sacrifice himself to the Speed Force, which is the source of all of his abilities, and Season 3 ends on that cliffhanger. Our main character has just walked into some other dimension, and we don't even know if we're ever going to see him again. But of course we do! It's The Flash! Season 4, like Season 3, tried to do something different, and here I think it works just a tad more. Of course, because this is a TV show about The Flash, he comes back in the first episode of Season 4. But now he's like fast as fuck, like faster than he's ever been in the show, actually canonically faster than everyone.
Do you see how fast he's running?
I've never gone that fast. No one has.
And so, okay, our main character is back, he's stronger than he ever has been before, so what do? We give him a villain that can't really be physically beaten. Why? Why do this? You could have done this next season, or last season, I don't really fucking care. But why? Why now? Okay, no, hold on. Let me calm down just for a second. Season 4 has easily the coolest episode of The Flash. Notice how I didn't say the best. It's not the best, but it is easily the coolest conceptually. Episode 15 of Season 4, Enter Flash Time. In this episode, Villain of the Week number 2346 sets off a nuke, and Barry slows down time to stop it, which canonically makes him faster than the speed of fucking light. So we put Barry in this position where he finally has to solve an issue on his own. So what does he do? He goes to his wife. And this is my biggest issue with all of the DCTV shows. Despite them showing how competent the heroes can be, they still rely on the other characters to give them answers. If you want your character to come off as smart, then you have to let them be smart. You can't have them rely on other people, or else they will not seem smart. It's kind of common sense. Speaking of being smart, the main villain is too smart. I get it, his entire character is about being smart, but it's really hard to make an interesting story when your main villain is constantly ahead of the main character. In fact, at no point in Season 4 does it feel like the main characters are actually winning. But of course, they win anyways because it's a TV show. Season 5! Season 5 of The Flash. Let it be known to the world that Season 5 of The Flash is dog shit. It's got the worst villain and villains that I've ever seen in a TV show. Piss poor writing choices. What the fuck even is that suit? And oh my god! Nora! the worst character ever in the show. She's supposed to be Barry and Iris's daughter from the future who came back in time because at some point in the future, Barry disappears and she doesn't even get to meet him. I think a lot of my issues with this stems from her acting like a child when she's really not. If we think about this logically, Nora says she's from the year 2045, which means if she's born in the next 2 years or so, she should be 22, 23, which is a grown-ass adult, and she acts like a fucking 10-year-old. Gets to the point where it stops being like a cute, fun character trait, and it just becomes fucking irritating. But hey, at the end of the season, she gets wiped from existence, so that's pretty nice. Alright, so after season 5, there was really no other way to go but up for this show. And so they did. The beginning of season 6 is so good. Not as good as the older seasons, but it's still pretty good. We get a new villain in forms of Bloodwork, and I think that he works pretty well. The actor's not doing a bad job, and his powers are pretty interesting. Barry gets a new suit, which is just a rendition of the last one, but like so much better. His speed stays relatively consistent, and he ends up beating Bloodwork by himself with no help from anyone. And then Crisis happened, and the Speed Force started dying. Now, do you remember earlier in the video when I said this? And as a result, she starts losing her powers, which is the most fucking overdone superhero storyline ever. Yeah, The Flash has used this storyline almost every fucking season. In season 1, this bald fuck took his powers and he didn't have them for like an episode. In season 2, Zoom stole his powers and then he didn't have them for like 2 or 3 episodes. And then in season 3, he loses his memory and he forgets that he even has powers. In season 4, Iris gets his powers for an episode. I don't really know why, I kinda forgot. In season 5, the main villain's main ability is to steal powers, so technically every fight he loses his powers. And then yeah, season 6 comes around and the Speed Force starts dying, which means he would lose his powers for good. And that is why season 6 turns fucking terrible. Along with its awful ass villain, this fucking woman, she's like a mirror lady, like she creates some kind of mirror dimension. I couldn't even explain to you how the fuck that works. He ends up trapping Barry's wife in it, and she's kind of there for like the entire season, and they don't get her out until next season. So, you know, that's pretty good. At least it would be good if they didn't keep fucking showing her every 10 minutes. I don't care about it! Not to mention, this is the only season to end 3 episodes early because of COVID, which, you know, I can't blame on the showrunners, but like, fuck, dude, come on. And the ending. Oh my god, the ending. You know what? No, I want to compare this. I want to compare the season 6 ending to the season 1 ending, alright? Alright, so season 1 finale. The Reverse Flash tempts Barry to go back in time and save his mother, but because it would completely change the timeline, he decides not to and go back to the future to fight the Reverse Flash. After a long, hard battle, Reverse Flash's descendant Eddie-Thon commits suicide to erase him from existence. Because of the activation of the particle accelerator, there's a wormhole that appears above the city and starts destroying it. Martin Stein decides that the best choice is for Barry to run inside of the singularity and stop it that way, and season 1 ends on the cliffhanger of Barry running into the singularity. This is like the coolest fucking way that it could have ended. Oh yeah, I also forgot to mention that it predicts the future right here. We see the Flash Museum, we see Barry in prison, we see Killer Frost, we see the Legends of Tomorrow, all of which hasn't even fucking happened yet, but it does happen later, and that's like really good foreshadowing. Well, not even really foreshadowing, they just kind of show it and let you guess what's gonna happen. But still, that's so fucking cool that they ended up following up on all of that shit. Alright, season 6. Mirror Woman starts terrorizing the city, and Barry just got his powers back to go and stop her. So Barry, along with his 2 friends, show up to fight her. She makes some clones, and then some bad CGI fight happens with really terrible music behind it. Barry does some cool shit, but this doesn't last for very long until he gets knocked the fuck out. Iris shows up, she does some new stuff with powers that she doesn't keep. I guess they were like temporary or whatever. And then Barry, Iris, and Mirror Woman hold hands to save the city. I could not make this shit up if I tried. So yeah, a fairly disappointing ending for a fairly disappointing season, so I guess it's fitting. But it just goes to show how much it has degraded over time. I've decided not to talk about the newest season because it's still airing, and I feel like I can't accurately judge it, especially because I haven't watched the last like 3 episodes of it. So yeah, The Flash, it's hard to rate. If I had tried to review this right after I watched season 1 and 2, I would probably give it a 8 out of 10. But with how much bad shit has happened in the show now, I just can't give it that good of a rating anymore. It's gonna have to be a 5 out of 10. Okay, now that I've talked about all the DCEU movies and The Flash, I feel like I can get into my conclusion. What Marvel really excels at is taking good, well-developed and likable characters and putting them into interesting situations. The reason a bunch of fucking people went and saw Endgame wasn't because there was gonna be a big fight, but because we wanted to see what would happen to these characters that have been developed over a fucking decade. It makes the movies fun to watch. Unlike the DC movies, you sit there and you watch all these depressed, sad characters talk about how depressed and sad the world is. That is not interesting, that is not fun to watch, and it doesn't make for a good movie. I forgot to mention it earlier, but Superman sacrifices himself in Batman v Superman, but it's completely fucking empty because we've only had one movie of development for this character. And technically this movie, except he just really gets his ass beat, which, you know, isn't development, and all of this happens just for him to come back in the next movie. This is not good fucking writing. It's very clear that DC realized Marvel was getting more recognition in media and they decided to expand their horizons just like Marvel was doing, and it did not turn out well for them. Because of DC trying to copy Marvel, we now have a rushed and unfinished movie franchise and TV shows that are only getting worse as they continue on. Marvel found what worked and they followed through with it to the very fucking end, and I can only respect that. And DC tried to do exactly that but failed, and it is their fault that their shit is not good. Holy shit. First of all, I planned on having this video out a lot earlier than it actually did because it turned out to be a much bigger project than I expected it to. But if you stuck through for this entire video, I really do appreciate it. I want you to go down in the comments below and tell me what you thought about it. And if you want to see that other video of me talking about the other DC TV shows, because, you know, those are just as bad as The Flash and whatever else I talked about in this. I put a ton of work into this video, and I'm honestly so tired of editing. It was a really long process. But thank you guys for watching, and I will see you on the next video.